Okay, this is video number 4 on the demonstration of the TA trading game. And basically, you come to the site, you use the tools, go to a trading game, so you tools, chart game, and then you play the game, and you can basically click on it, start it, and so forth. But what I do here, and if you're watching some of these demonstration videos, you see that you can make calls on the market given what the market tells you. It's subtle. The market doesn't scream and shout. It gives you subtle indications, sometimes more noticeable than other times, but you have to be able to pick up on them. You have to use those indicators that it gives you to make decisions. And so, if we're looking here at the chart game, what I'm going to do is go through another game here with you. So far, we've done 3. I've been able to make money 2 out of 3. One of them made, 3 out of 3. 2 of those barely just made some money, and then one, of course, we made really good money. And that's the way the market is, right? Some trades are going to give you a lot of money, and some aren't. Okay, so let's get started here. I'll just click on this to start it. So that will pull up the game. And when you start the game, essentially you have, the various time frames that you can look at. You have the pull this over so I'm there. You have the time frames you can look at. So if you click that up, it'll pop up all the time frames. You got the daily, weekly, monthly charts that you can look at, and you got all the neoclassical indicators on here. Arrows showing you breakdowns. So that's trend transitions or trend reconfirmations. Green meaning confirmed, red meaning suspect. If you don't know what all that means, in other words, when I'm throwing these words out, you can always come over to the chart help game. There's some pointers down there. And then, of course, there's a couple books that will help you understand all these concepts. So let's trade another game here. Let me go through this. So the very first thing I have to do is to try to get an understanding of where we are in this particular market. And I do that by pulling up the trading cube, taking a look at it. And if I look at that, I can see that we're bullish on all the time frames out here. And so I'm 61, 71, 87. So starting to get extended on the market. Also on the intermediate term time frame, kind of extended. This is mean time to failure. So that's telling you this bullish trend's been in effect for quite a while. Now on the short term time frame, if you look at it here, on 2 of the 3, the sector, the market, and over here on the stock, you can see those are bearish short term. And so, what this tells you, if you think about it, is this tells you it's been a long-term move to the upside, right? The market's been going up. It's been going up for a while. This, when we look here, and for some reason we don't have a value on that one, but if we look here, this is telling you that the weeklies have been up for a while as well, right? So that's been going a long time as well. And so if I think about this market, it's probably been doing something like this. Now over here you got bearishness in a couple places. So that says that even though whatever this stock is that we're about to trade, the sector is strong, right? It's bullish. That stock itself is showing weakness and the general market. And so you've got some sort of a move like this taking place right now. So a long-term up move, a rolling over. Now, anytime you do this in real life, the question is this consolidation? In other words, you just take off, turn around and take right back off? Or is it distribution where you're going to break down and start losing a bunch? And we don't know that. So given the trading cube, you can start getting an indication of where you're at, in a particular trade and where the general market is at. So if we go back over here to the daily, where we're looking at that, matter of fact, let's pop to the monthly first. I'll just pop over there. So let's click on the monthly and go there. And on the monthly, you can see what we were just talking about, right? So some sort of a long-term uptrend, and then some sort of a rolling over starting to take place again. Now, this, if you look at this, there's some indications right away that you can see. Now, if you know the neoclassical, one of the things is retest, regenerate. This is a bullish one. You've also got one over here that is a bullish one. And both of those broke out. The arrows show you where trend transitioned higher. And it came back within 6 bars. And that says the probabilities of continuation in the uptrend, right, are a little bit lower than they would have been had it gone more than 6 bars. Matter of fact, quite a bit lower. Now, this one you can see got up underneath this bar. And it also got up underneath this one, and I mean the lows of those two bars. That tells you that whatever was the trend, in other words, the trend was up, whatever was the trend is probably about to change, and it's going to go this way at best and potentially transition to something else. And so on the monthly, on a long-term time frame, we can see there's some trouble spots in this chart. If we look on it weekly, and we're doing this so that we can get an indication of how to trade this thing. If we look at it weekly, we know that we're going to be getting weak here because if you go back on the monthly, you could see that was weak. Well, this one's definitely weak here as well, coming down. It's already broken a couple swing point lows, transitioned to bearish. And so this is starting to struggle quite a bit. So the fact that it's held on, it looks like it's held on to this very last swing point. That low is 4147. If I go back to the monthly, and let's look at the low on the monthly here, it's probably going to be this bar, and it is 4147. So if we break 4147, then we've got some more serious trouble. And I'm going to probably be thinking I want to trade from the short side, not the long side, on any kind of setup to do that. Now, the good thing for this particular chart on the long-term time frame is if you've got another bullish retest regenerate down here. And that says that when you come back to it, right, there's an attempt to regenerate to the top side. Now, it's already tested into it once here, so that brings your probabilities at about 50-50. You know, you don't have high probability here, so it's a little bit better than a coin flip, but that's about it. And so that's one more thing to notice. And so that was the weekly. And actually, let's go back to the daily now and decide how to trade. So if we come to the daily, we got a little poke up. We're coming into a swing point high, and we have bearish retest regenerates about to form here. And so you have this one at this level here. And if you do the high of that bar to the low of that bar, that's the regenerate zone. You got another one inside of it. And so it looks to me like the area that I would want to concentrate if I wanted to short would be right about there, right, somewhere in that area. And so that's, you know, my thought process right now is short-term trends this way, intermediate-term trends this way, long-term trends still up, but it looks to me like it's already told us, but it's probably sideways at best. So how do I want to trade this? I probably want to trade it from the down, you know, the back side. I want to trade short. And so that gives me the context of what I'm working with. So knowing that, now it's just a matter of putting on the trades wherever they make sense. And so if I look here at the thing, you know, I don't see a trade right here. I mean, I do see a test, but the test was on more volume, so I don't want to short yet. I'm just going to go to the next bar and see how it wants to trade. Does it want to trade up a little bit higher? Does it want to come down? What does it want to do? So it's still got some volume trying to push up. I'm still going to let it try to trade a little bit more. I'm going to go to the next bar. And so I'm simply waiting for an opportunity to potentially trade this from the downside depending on how it behaves. So how does it behave? Well, wide price spread bar, higher volume than I would have expected, 708. That's into this swing point low. 45.91 is the top there. Over here is 46.07. So it's right to the top. So that's a full bearish retest regenerate. Low of that was 44.99. Have we hit it before is the first question you have to answer. And 44.73. And so the answer is no. So this is the first time. First time you do a full bearish retest regenerate. That's not what you want, and you're hitting it with more volume. So all of a sudden, I'm not so sure I want to short this, at least not at this price point. If I'm going to short it, I'm probably going to short it higher. Now notice, you know, this thing has 3 swing point highs grouped right together. So a break over that is probably going to give you a pretty good push to the top side. And so you can see, you start playing all these things off against each other and saying, okay, what could happen? What does it mean? Now I want to go back to the weekly because I don't remember what my high is where I would think I was wrong, and that is these bearish retests. Now look at the volume on that one. 45.96 is the low, and it could get up to 50. So I'm probably going to have to risk up to about $50 on this trade, maybe even to 50. That's 50.90, 50.30. So I'd have to risk up to probably anywhere from 50 to 52. on the weekly chart. So now let's go back to the daily, see where that lines up. 50-52, that's way up here. And so yeah, if this thing breaks over these, it could definitely get to 50-52. Okay, so we're gonna have to be very careful about how we short it if we short it. Let's get another bar and see what it looks like. So now that you kind of have your parameters, I'm still leaning from the long side. We go over, back under, have more volume. That says we can test higher again. I'm not going to do anything with that. I'm going to sit here. And so now we're coming back down. So what would make me change my mind? Well, not change my mind, but put on the trade. Well, we just had that sign of strength, right? Volume coming in over here, it goes up high. If we look here on this swing point high, that bar, that low bar where it broke out, big wide price spread bar, that's a significant bar. In neoclassical TA, you want to know what's significant. Every bar on this chart is not significant. There's only 3 types of bars that have significance: wide price spread, high volume, and anchor bars. Swing point bars, all these H's and L's. All of that gives you things to look at. Those are the ones you concentrate on. And so if I'm concentrating on these bars, I want to concentrate on it coming back down. That swing point high is a good place to see that. Low on that's about 43. So I'm still sitting on the sideline here waiting for a trade. Still with a bias to the downside, but not a strong bias. I can go either way here. So I just want to get something I can trade one way or the other. And so I just continue to wait. And that's what you do in real life, right? You continue to wait. You wait and wait until you get something that tells you what you want. So that bias to the downside now is starting to look interesting, right? Because here's the break, and it gets back underneath this low of that swing point high, 43 versus 43.06. If I get a bounce now, I'm going to short into this. Another thing I could do is just start the chart, because I believe this really is going to trade lower. So this was a false break to the top side, got up, did a full retest, regen, couldn't get over it, and now it's trying to regenerate lower. So to really try to drive that thought home, here's the high, right? It comes right up, does a full retest on that high. And I don't believe it got over it, if I remember right. 46.07. Oh, no. Well, did it close over it? Yeah, 46.05. So actually, it did close over it. So that says it could come back up and try it again. That's what it did, right? Pulled back, came up, tried it again. Now it gave it up. On this side now, it got underneath it and volume expanded heavily. So something's going on, makes me want to take partial short. And so I'm not going to put a bunch of money, but I'll put 20% and I'll start to short this thing. And so now it's going to be a question of, how does it trade? And so anytime you come out the next bar, you're going to get the opening price. And so I'm going to be underwater. You're going to have statistics over here so you can see your statistics, right? So we're underwater by about 1% on that push up. And that push up, by the way, was about, total push was 4.49%. And we only put 20% of our money in it, and we got the opening price. So I'm going to just continue on here. Look at the next bar. Oops, I hit reverse. That's not what I meant to do. It wasn't what I meant to do, but it turned out, right? You ever make one of those thumb trades, where you hit the wrong button? Well, I just hit the wrong button, and it ended up making money for me. That's how stupid this game can be. And I don't mean by this chart game. I mean by trading in general. So I'm almost break even now, and I'm all the way back up here. And now I'm starting to wonder, okay, is this thing going to break out? You're back up here, you're pushing volume, you're hitting the 3 swing point highs. I'm sitting here laughing at myself because I hit the wrong bar. So at this point, I'm not going to add, hold, or whatever, right? Sell. I'm just going to hold it and see if it can break out. What a funny game. Okay, so it doesn't. My bias is still the downside, but I guess it's going to have to be up higher than lower. And keep going. I can't believe I hit that wrong button. So now it's coming back. And yeah, see, it's coming all the way back. So my bias is still, was still short. But it's just funny. So swing point highs. Now notice how the chart all shifted, right? Because the big bars are over here on the left, they fell off. You only do 60 bars. Too much information is not good. And so in this case, I don't want too much information. I'm still holding here. I'm still going to look to reverse this somewhere. And I'm looking for a reason to reverse. And so you got to, basically, if you think about what's happening here, is you got this big consolidation that's taking place. It's taking place on this time frame, right? And you can start to draw these consolidations out. If you go back to way over here, you can see there's like a group of trades in this area. There's another group of trades, like primarily, I guess you could stretch it up to there. But you kind of got these groups of trades that have taken place, right? And right now, it's working in this lower one. So it's a consolidation after a push down. That could be consolidation and then lift, or it really could be just continuation of the downside. That's what you never know in a market. Right now, when I look at this is a pretty bearish indicating market. And my suspicion is on the long term, because it's already said sideways at best on the long term, that eventually this thing's going to try and break to the downside and distribute to the downside, not the upside. So, and you can get some other clues here. You're in November. This is the most bullish time of the year, right? October, November, you've seen the rise here. And so you're kind of fighting the time frame. But these are all things in real life. So at this point, I'm going to go another bar and hold it and see what it deals me. And I'm 20% long basically here. And I'm trying to get up and see if it can break. I would love to short it up around 52. But I have no idea if it's going to be able to get up there. Matter of fact, my bias is to the downside, and I'm playing with fire here. So at this point, I'm just going to close what I have. I'm going to sell it, 100% of it, go back to cash, wait for the trade. And so let's see what our position is. We are down about that 0.09. So after messing up, we're about where we were. And so no harm, no foul, right? Okay, next bar. I'm still waiting for a short. And, ideally, I'd love to short it up higher, not lower. And so let's see if it can set up. And if it gets over those 3 swing point highs, right, it could get a nice quick boost that we could short into. And if it sets something else up, then we'll deal with that. And tough chart here. A lot of, gyration up and down. Okay, so is there anything here to tell me? We just changed months, so I'm going to look at the monthly. And nothing going on there. Again, could come back to the top of this. That's about 48, pretty easy. And yeah, so let's go to the weekly. See what's there. Yeah, this still looks like a short to me. Notice how the volume is just like really dying here, right? As this is trying to work its way up in the bullish time of the year. So again, it still makes me think you're going to want to short this thing, not go long at some point here. So I hit the next bar. Now, next bar really is always a daily bar. It doesn't do weekly bars. And so you're going to be on the daily time frame when it does the next bar for you. And there it is, starting to come down again. Now you got all these swing point lows that are lining up. You got 6 of them. We start breaking some of those, it's going to put some pressure on it. The two big bars, actually the 3 big bars, are right here in the middle of the screen now. It's all these bars here from there up, right? That's where all the meat of the action was. And so that basically sets up this range to trade in, which so far it's actually trading in. Next bar. And let's see if we can get some sort of setup somewhere. And a lot of times in life, this is what you do. You wait, you plan, and you never get a trade. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for some weakness to break these swing points, which we got. And then I want a retest of those that looks like it's going to fail. So there's the break. Let's see if it stays inside the range, comes back up, test into them. Now I tested the bottom of the range, right? That one we were just talking about. That low is 4225, and we're at 4224. So we're up underneath it. So we just broke this one as well. Not as much volume. I'm expecting a bounce that I can short into. Let's see if it gives it to us. And there's the bounce, and I'm going to start the short again. I'm going to try one more time. So let's see if we can get this right this time. 20% short. Okay, so we get it on, and unfortunately we got almost where it is now. It's open there, went all the way up and came back down. So let's continue to hold. And now we're looking to see if we can start the breaking to the downside. And now we're starting to hold some more. And we've got an ABCD structure to the downside. It looked like it just completed, and now we get a bounce. So if I go back to the, grab my tools here, you know, we had this, let me grab my cursor. We had this ABCD from here, it looks like, back to there, and actually it wasn't done. Would have broken underneath these lows had it completed. It's still not dead, but it got a nice big bounce here. So again, hold the trade and continue on in this very volatile up and down trade. And back into the swing point lows. That still looks fine, so we keep trading. And so now some pressure back in it. And so far, it's done what you want in terms of bearishness, right? Comes back in this, the high of that swing point lows there, the high of these other two are up here. And so far, it hasn't been able to regenerate, you know, it hasn't been able to get over that. So it still can regenerate to the downside. So I still like the way it's trading. So hold. And now it's starting to give us a little more pressure to the downside. So again, now you've got nested ABCD structures. So let's review what that means, right? So you've got this push down, and then I believe this price point here is a little bit higher, so that gives you a B point, right? Then you start back down, so that goes down to here somewhere. And then inside that now you have this, this, and this, right? And so that should extend to the bottom of this area. So we're going to let it extend there. And if it goes deeper, that's okay too. We're going to look to cover something down in this area somewhere and then try to short on the retest of these if that's the way it plays out. So let's keep going. And again, we don't have a lot of money on this, but maybe we'll be able to get more money on it before too much longer. And now it does an under-over with less volume. Now, under-overs are not that great of a signal, 99.8. And so I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to hold again. And under-over just barely, basically says you went under, back over, you had less volume. You should get some sort of a bounce. Probabilities, I've never done the homework on them, but just from trading all these years, they're probably about 55-60% at best. So it does bounce up again, still holding, and now it's right back up into those swing point lows, testing them again. And I don't like it doing this. There's a doji, so we may get a turn here, but I don't want to trade this from the long side. Realize we're out at the end of the year now, so volumes are really tailing off. Usually you get that Santa Claus rally this time of the year, right? And that's kind of what's happening here. So let's give it a chance to continue on and see what she does. And my bias remains as it was. Nothing's changed. I'm just waiting for an opportunity to do something different. And we're about to end this month. And we're going to end, matter of fact, January 1st looks like it just printed, right? Because we can see January here. And so we get a big sell on the 1st of January. Volume expands, compared to all this week, Christmas week stuff. That low there is 4115. We do a doji, high volume, close at 4144. And so, not too far from those lows, potentially a break coming up. Let's see what the weekly looks like now in the monthlies. Okay, so still doing the same sort of thing down here. Still looks to me bearish from that perspective. And if we break, we're going to break 3 swing point lows on 3 different time frames. So going back to the daily chart, I think this is the place you take a chance. You put a little bit more money on. With this bad start, to the year on this particular stock at least. And so let's put another 20% of what we have left onto this. And so we're going to add to that short. And tries to go lower and actually breaks on this low. If you break this low and it holds or continues lower, it's going to break all 3 time frames. That's 40.85. So I'm going to hold. And there's the break. And so you got a break here. You're going to have a break on the weekly, and potentially, if the month stays weak, you're going to have a break on the monthly as well. And so I'm going to hold now, because I've got, again, this is all about money management here. I've got about 33% of my money on this trade. It's finally starting to make money. All right. Now I could add here, and that might work because I'm breaking out on multiple time frames, but it's not a foregone conclusion to just go throw extra money at this right now. What I'd like to do is see a bounce come up with no volume. In other words, come back up a little bit, maybe 40, 50 or so. Show me no volume. In other words, the sellers book some profits, close some of their positions, volume dries up, and this thing doesn't go anywhere. So let's hold. In the worst case, it just keeps going down. We make more money on what we're there, and that's what happened. And then we just short somewhere else. So, now you're really starting to make some money, right? You've got 33% of your money on it. You're up, 3.5% now. And so, that's how you trade these things. You keep waiting, you be patient, you watch for what you want, you get your bias at the beginning on what you're trying to do, and then you keep trading it. Now you started out at 120 bars. We're 50 bars into it at this point, and we're starting to, capitalize on our positions. What we have to do now is decide where you're going to take some money. So if we go over to the weekly chart, we know that one's going to have been broken down, so it's way up underneath this low now. That's 40.52. And if we go to the monthly, that's where we're going to look for, where do we cover some. And so on the monthly, you're going to come into, it looks like this wide price spread. Look at this bar right here. See this bar with that wide top up here and the bottom down here? That bar is probably going to give some support. And remember, we talked about the swing point high. It would be the second trip into it. So it looks to me like about 35.50 up to 38.70 is about where you want to try to cover something if you're blindly just covering. So that's where we'll be looking on this daily. So about 35.50 up to 38 or so. And we're right there, right? We're getting close. So one could choose to take a little bit money out. I never do that if it's going in my favor fast and furious and I don't see a huge volume swell, like a blowout bottom, then I just stay with it. So right now I'm going to continue to hold and see, how this thing trades. There's another trade to be announced. That volume is still not expanding crazily. This is very bearish action, right? So I'm going to hold some more, see how far we can milk this thing. We're getting close to that 35 number. Now we're into it. Now you didn't do an under over, but you can see that people are bottom fishing here. So at this point, we're going to book just a little bit of our money. We're going to take, now what this is going to do is take off X% of however many percent you have in there. So we have roughly 33,000 that's expanded now. It's probably 35 or 6. We're going to take off some amount of it. I'm going to take 20% of it off and close that position, right, that 20%. So I'll still have about 20 grand on, and I've taken some of it off. And so basically we booked it. Now we're down to 25,000 short, and we're up about 3.5% or so, almost 4%. Now at this point, we still don't have a good reversal. So this tells me, and the reason I say that is there's nothing here that says this is going to reverse. What caused it to reverse was not this time frame. It was that monthly chart that we looked at. And so, to me, this is just, we got far enough down to where people wanted to book some of the profits just like I did. And that's what they're doing here. Now you have to start measuring up where can you short it again, right? And one of the places I would look is at the top of this bar, the bottom of that bar. And so if I pull this down so we can see the numbers, that's 30, I want the bottom of it, 39.39, and the top of this one is 38. So somewhere around 39 would be a good place to think about shorting again. So I'm going to hold, see if it continues up with a bounce, and it didn't, and that's why you don't take any off. And so now you're down at that 35 number we talked about. That's the bottom of the bullish retest regenerate over here on the monthly chart. If it can't hold that, this is really in trouble. So at this point, again, I don't see a reason to close it. I'm just going to hold it and see how far we can milk it. And there we're under over volume expands. Now, this usually means one of two things. Either you're fixing to get a big bar to the downside, or you kind of got this V-shaped thing that's going to bounce because you expanded volume fairly high compared to these others, right? That's kind of usually an exhaustion. The fact that you went under back over suggests that you will be back down here at some point, but it doesn't have to be now. And if you remember on the monthly, 35 is the number, right? So this is where you should probably take some, if not all, your profits. I'm going to close about 70% of what I have here. And so if I pull this down so that I can see the 70 and go down and grab the 70 and close that portion of it, I'm going to leave a little bit on, and I'm going to look for a bounce to take to take and put some more pressure on. Now, this actually looks like a reversal. So now you go under, back over, all the way down, extended move. That's what we call a 2-bar reversal. So if you get an angle of descent, volume is lighter on the bar that goes under, back over, right? That's a 2-bar reversal. This is where you should take all your money. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to close this trade. So 100% close it. And there's another test, and usually, the way this works, and if you join, I don't want to make this into a sales thing, but if you join the community, what you're going to find out is that you can be mentored. In other words, you can apply for mentoring. And if you apply for mentoring, you get a one-on-one with someone like me that knows how to do these things and teaches you how to do these things. There's a booklet of about 40 pages. You sit one-on-one, you do it for 2 or 3 months, you learn how to trade. And of course you'll have to practice a lot, but you'll learn how to do exactly what I'm doing here and what you see me doing. So I forgot now, did I close this or not? Yeah, I closed the trade, and so now we got a reversal. This should try and trade back higher, and we're going to want to short it. Now, let's figure out where we shorted real quick. So if I go to the weekly, there's nothing there until you get back to here, and that price point is 40.52. Let's go to the monthly. And on the monthly, 40, that low is 41.47. So 40.52 is what we're looking at, and the high of this big bar is 38.72. So somewhere between 38.70 and 40.52 is probably the place that you want to focus on a short. And so that would be somewhere up in here. And so that's what we'll be looking for. So let's go to the next bar. And it went down. So, I mean, sometimes that happens, right? This is very bearish. And matter of fact, this tells you, this is one more indication. This tells you this is a lot weaker than you think, right? Because that should have reversed. The fact that it didn't tells you it's a lot weaker than you think. I'm not going to, try to lay on shorts into this, even though it's not a bad trade. I'll just keep trading the next bar. Eventually we'll get a bounce, and we'll trade into the bounce. And boy, a lot of volume coming out of this thing. And there's a bounce back over, has more volume, so I'm going to continue to wait because I still think it's going to bounce more. And we just keep going here until we get another trade set up. So just like at the beginning of the game where we kept, focusing, waiting on the, the setup that would allow us to get long, short, that's what we're doing here. And honestly, it's just not giving it to us. We may not get another trade before this thing runs out, right? We're on 50 bars and counting. So very weak, very weak. Another reversal signal right here that should try to trade higher and doesn't. Again, very weak. This thing's got trouble written all over it. We'll get a bounce here somewhere and we'll trade against it. So volume comes in. This is short covering probably. Now, one of the things you don't know, right, and I say it's probably short covering, is when you get this kind of a bounce, volume expands like that. Was it all the people that shorted all the way down, now they want to cover? You won't know that until you see the next bar. And the next bar, do you have more volume coming in? In other words, do you get continuation? Is it new money coming in? Because at some point, all those that shorted are done, right? They're not going to be able to cover their shorts anymore. They've shorted everything they're going to short. They've covered everything they're going to cover, right? So let's see. We still would like it up higher, somewhere up in this area, but I don't know if that's reasonable anymore. So let's go to the weekly and try to get our bearings one more time. So we're basically at $32, and the weekly was $36.46 now. So about $4 up on that one. And let me go look at this big bar over here one more time. It's $38.72. So $38.72 now, 36, so it's lower than we had before. Yeah, so that's somewhere between 36.5 and 38 now is probably the place. So next bar. And still nothing to trade off of. And I'm not going to press a position here. There's no reason to. We'll probably get a little ABCD structure to take it higher at some point. Now there's a blowout bar. That's ugly. You could have shorted into that one on the next bar, right? I mean, that's just total. It tells you something's really going bad here. Yeah, see how it plays down again. And I'm probably just going to end this game. I've gone enough. I don't want to. I'm not the type of trader that presses a position. So in other words, if I want to play, if you do a football analogy, right? If you draw out a football field and you got the 20-yard lines here and here, right? I want to do the bulk of my work in here. I'm not trying to get that last 10% on each side. This is where the real money is. If you can get that every time or most of the time, and we use this chart game to graduate mentors. You need to trade 8 out of 10 games successfully. This is the 4th game I'm recording for you. I played another one last night, but I didn't record it. I was too tired and won that one also. So this would be 5 out of 5 I win probably. You should be able to win 8 out of 10. If you do that, you should be able to make money consistently, and that's the idea. So one could press a short here. Nah, I don't see a reason to. I'm still, unfortunately, I'm going to have to wait again. I'd love to see an ABCD structure that takes it up higher, and that's what it's doing finally. It's going to try and take it higher. So here's that ABCD structure I've been waiting on. So here's the A, there's your B, right, a little small one. C would take it up to there, which takes you into, gets you close to that price point, that 34 to 36 number we've been talking about. So let's go to the next bar. And the next bar, and see if it can get up there. And I'm about to run out of bars. May get another trade here though. So now it's at a swing point high, right? Trying to get back over it. And it went down so fast and furious it never printed a swing point low. It never could get a swing point low. You see that all the way down, no swing point lows, because it kept making new lows within 6 bars. So next bar, let's see if it shoots up to that 34 number, and it's not. And so this is where you have to make a call. You just went from 25 to 31. That's 6 on 25, right? So that's roughly 25%. That's a pretty big move back up. That's a pretty big bounce. So one could take a chance and start putting some money back on the short side, which I'll do. And I'll see if that was it. Hold it again. Keep going here. And hold. And there's that bounce, unfortunately. And let's see if it can get over that swing point high or not. If it does, it's going to shoot up to that 34 number. If it doesn't, then it's going to come back and try to top that. It's going to where it's going to try to target back to is, you see this big volume here and here. It's going to try to target back to this and that. So this little zone right here is where it's going to try to get. And so that's where we're going to want to cover when it's time, if that's the case. So we keep going and see if we can get down there and make a little bit more money here before we close this game out. And if we get over the swing point high, given that there's not that many bars left, I probably just have to close the trade and call it a day. So because it's going to be 2 swing point highs, it breaks. And that's not something I'm willing to sit on. and it's still going in my favor, so let's just let it go and see if we can get down to that target. And there it is. You see the target there? Got right to it. 2807. That low on the big bar is 2807. So it touched right into it, no volume, reversed with a doji. You know, like a hanging man if you were at the top, right? So at this point, you know, we've made a little bit more money. I'm going to go ahead and finish that game, and actually I'm going to finish the trade. I'm just going to close the trade 100%, book the money, and then I'm going to put you on pause, and then I'll let the rest of the chart play out here while you're on pause. Okay, so coming back now that I've played out the rest of the games, right? I mean, the days that were remaining. If you go back to what we were talking about this little area right here as being the place that you'd want to cover. And when we did this little reversal right on this bar, right, that reversal, that was where I went ahead and I just covered. Well, it did bounce, and then it came right back right into that zone, and then it took off. And so you could see that, again, the analogy of the football field, I was playing, I didn't want the last 10% kind of thing. I was trying to just get as much as I could get and then take my money and leave. So it does that, comes back up. Right now it's got all these swing point lines, highs lined up there. So you got this range, you're at the top of the range. If this were to go on farther, you may get the breakout now back the other way, but it's too early to know that. You don't have any great signals. It's just that it's set up an ABCD structure to try to do it. But of course, if you want to go look at this chart, you can. You can now see what we were trading. It gives it to us. The symbol was SF. And it was trading from 2015 to 2016. So it's August to April of that time frame. That's it for another chart game. Looks like we made some money again. Pull up those statistics here. So then that gives you the dates that you can view. Let's click on the one that we were just playing and see if we can see the game stats on that one. And I believe that will give us how much money we made. If not, it's the other one. Yeah, there it is. So it's 105 is what we did. We were invested 45 days. We ran it for 121. Annualized rate of return 2.71 on this particular game. We made 5.4% in that 4 months. Well, that's it. Into this game. Thanks.